Today, November 4th, feedback to Angie Restrepo from Claudia Acero. Angie, as soon as you have the time to check my general and specific comments on your report, you will understand this video. Initially, the plan to say is that, yeah, you have been working a lot, and let's say that you have like a good and interesting draft. But still it requires a lot of work. In general terms, I will kind of summarize the problems that we have in the paper and the opportunities of improvement. Let's start by using the checklist that you are supposed to follow so you can actually improve your paper. Be aware that in the introduction, you have to include the research topic, the problem, the question objectives, the rationale, or the justification. In a way, what you are supposed to be doing is kind of splitting the section so we can actually show people what the topic is, what generating the problem for that follow this research, what are your questions and objectives, and what justifies your study. I encourage you to follow any strategy to write. Can be from general to specific, can be from macro to micro, or can be from international to national, local, and institutional. But there must be any, let's say, consciousness of what you are doing and how you are organizing your test. The second area that you have to consider is how you are organizing these sections. The theoretical framework, in which ones you have to present the literature review and the state of the art that you actually use. In this part, I have to say that there are a lot of ideas, but I don't see that many of those ideas are actually connected. So you will actually see a lot of comments in which ones I say paragraph development, and connection among ideas, because paragraphs are actually independent, and there are very, very short paragraphs that are just stating an incomplete idea. The third section that you need to know, I forgot to say here, that the theory that you are using is the one that actually opens doors for the instruments, for the pedagogical intervention, and even for the analysis that you are actually doing. Though you have a lot of concepts, they are not really well presented to show the connection with your research. Then we go to the research design. This section and the next one, that is the pedagogical intervention, seem to be like overlapping, so it seems that there is a confusion. So be aware that you should reorganize this section as suggested in my comments. I would encourage you to outline your long test before, so you can actually see which are the sections and if those sections actually correspond to what you want to say. So the way to outline it is by following your table of contents. By the way, Spanish here, so careful with this amount of details, and actually seeing which ones, for example, what we have here, are dependent or independent topics, because it seems that well, they are not presented exactly in that way, so it's very difficult for the reader to actually identify which topics are dependent and which topics are independent. It seems that you actually want to talk about what's vocabulary, and probably these issues about vocabulary acquisition, vocabulary teaching could be related. Same as vocabulary learning strategies, seems that self-directed vocabulary learning strategies are dependent. So make sure the relationship among these is not like making a long list of what you have here. Be aware that what you're including in the theoretical framework leads your objectives, leads your instruments, and leads the way that you analyze information. For the state of the art, again, there is a problem of organization in the test, so it's difficult to identify how many students' studies did you review and to see, well, the relationship among those studies. Remember that one issue that you have to say from the beginning is that you are actually considering a strategy that has been implemented for long. Is not a new strategy. It's a model, it's a strategy that you are actually using, and therefore you have to actually say it in the test. The pedagogical intervention, and here it seems that there is a confusion with the previous stage, is to show other teachers how they can implement the strategy. Though I see the information there, again, the organization and the amount of quotations is giving us a problem. You will find a lot of yellow pieces, and these yellow pieces actually mean that there are problems with language. There are a lot of language problems, so be aware that you are reporting something that already happened. Be aware that in certain moments of the paper, it's good that you include simple present because it's like a concept, but in some other cases it's better to use the simple past. Be careful with prepositions, with articles missing, with incorrect translations that I found in the test. There is another, let's say, issue that you will see in my comments, and it is like a lot of sections that are either incorrectly cited, and you will find them like in red, as you can see here. So there are a lot of sections that I have to cite or to highlight because it seems that they are plagiarized. So since this is not your final version, let's say that there is not a huge problem, but if this issue is not kind of improved in the next delivery, we will start having problems because plagiarism, as you know, is not accepted in a research project, is not accepted in your final research paper, and you have to be careful with citations. In the data analysis and findings, my strongest suggestion is go back to your research objectives and research questions to actually answer those questions and answer those objectives. What we find is that you actually include a lot of information, but you have to say and to describe what you're saying. You want to describe the impact in enhancing self-directed vocabulary learning. Be aware that there are important keywords here, like description. So you want to describe, you want to show the strategy, you want to show how self-directed English is fostered, how the vocabulary learning is improved. With the objectives, let's say that, probably this one requires a revision because, yeah, part of the pedagogical implementation was the implementation of this. So this is not a research objective. This is not a research objective. So what did you actually wanted to find out with the research? I think that you wanted to find out that students raise their vocabulary, for example, or and let's say that, for example, to report, to foster, so they are the same. So based on what you have, try to restate the objectives. This is not a sin, it's a valid issue in action research, though you have already taken your data, it's very important that you actually relate it. Talking about data, I saw that you are using certain, let's say, instruments that were applied in other institutions. So be careful, and you have to state it from the beginning, otherwise this is considered plagiarism. So if you have not said from the beginning that you actually adapted this, it becomes plagiarism. But what worries me is that you are actually using these instruments with a lot of, let's say, information, but this information was not actually presented in the data analysis. So the question is, if you consider that it was pertinent, so well, which are the key questions that are actually related to vocabulary? So identify key questions for your research, because otherwise what you are doing is just using one that you consider that you liked, but is not useful. Okay, the other one, we have a problem with names, so you will know how to improve it. More than copying like a lesson plan like this, it's like letting others know what sections or why you decided to do this. So I would guess that you have to describe it in the pedagogical intervention. Since you have this, and I hope you have evidence of this, so it would be ideal if you could actually include some of the lists that students prepare. So those, let's say, graphic and evidence can actually support your research. I don't see this one as very related to the research, so how do this one relate to the research? So these are issues that I still have like in mind and in questions and not clear for me. Your question is necessary incluir como apéndice las evidencias. Of course we need to include. Of course you don't need to include all the lesson plans. What the reader actually needs is just to know how to follow the strategy, how to actually implement it. Let's say that at a certain moment, yeah, we need some files, but also we need a lot of evidence. I suggested you to go to Intellectum many times so you can see actually how a good paper, or at least a paper that has been approved, is actually organized. So make sure that you actually check these ones so you can actually improve your paper. Okay, this is it for now. So